Alright, factoring difference of squares. These are usually a little bit easier if there's no middle term. If you really want to do this the same way we did the others, you could look at the C term. It's negative 49, and you would think, what times what is negative 49? That adds up to 0, and that would be 7 and negative 7. So, shortcut, you could just do x plus 7. Oops, that's not an x. That's an a. Match up your right terms here. This is rules. A plus 7 and a minus 7. If you wanted to do the grouping, you would have just done a squared plus 7a minus 7a minus 49, and you would have ended up with an a plus 7, factored out a negative 7, a plus 7, and you'd get the exact same thing. So, it does work with grouping. Alright, remember what I always said to look for first. GCF. It's going to make your life so much easier. So here, the GCF, I can divide those both by a 4 and both by a t. The leftovers are going to give me t squared minus 36. Keep that 4t out in front. What times what is t squared? T times t. What times what is 36? 6 and 6. We need a plus and a minus. This will always work for difference of squares. You know it's a difference of squares if there's a minus in between and both of your terms are perfect squares, meaning you can multiply something by itself to get that back. Alright, last one here. Again, look for a GCF. It looks like I can divide those both by 3. So I'm going to rewrite that. Stinking bells. I've got the 3 out front. 4y squared minus 9. Alright, this one's kind of weird looking, but it's got 2 terms and a minus sign. Is there something you can multiply by itself to get 4y squared? If you think about that, 2y times 2y is going to give you 4y squared. What can you multiply by itself to equal 9? 3 and 3. To make the middle term cancel out, you've got a plus and a minus. Keep your 3 out front, and we're done. Alright, if zero product property, if the product, remember product just means you're going to multiply, the product of 2 expressions is 0, then one or both expressions must equal 0. Alright, let's look at some of these. So, more factoring. Let's see if we can figure this out. Remember, that's a 1 out in front, so we can do these a little bit quicker if we don't want to do all the grouping. 1 times negative 36 is negative 36. 2 numbers you can multiply to get negative 36 that will add up to negative 5. Negative 9 and positive 4. Alright, so if you want, you can just jump right to this. X minus 9, x plus 4. If you like the grouping, you could have written out x squared minus 9x plus 4x minus 36 and then done your grouping, and you would have gotten the same thing. Alright, what you can do now, or what you need to do now, since they're equal to 0, is you're going to take each parenthesis and set them equal to 0 to figure out what x is equal to. And we actually did the same type of thing when we were doing the graphing by intercept form. One answer, add 9 to both sides, is going to be 9, and the other answer is going to be negative 4. So, those are my 2 answers. If I would have been graphing this, it would cross at 9 and negative 4. Let's try another one. The next one, notice, it's not equal to 0, so we're going to have to set it equal to 0 first. We're going to subtract x from both sides and subtract the 12 from both sides to leave us with x squared minus x minus 12 equals 0. Again, there's a 1 in front, so this should be a little bit easier. What we're going to do is look at negative 12. What 2 numbers can you multiply to get negative 12 that add up to negative 1? So you've got 3 and negative 4. Since that was a 1, I can go to x plus 3 and x minus 4 equals 0. set each of those equal to 0 to solve for x. And again, if you see that it's just the opposite, just write the answer. X is -3, x is +4. And of course, that last one is going to be a little bit trickier. So let's take a look at that. We have, first of all, look for a GCF. Let me make that darker. Look for a GCF. Notice, maybe you can't divide the numbers, but they all have an x. So I'm going to take an x out. And I'm left with 5x squared minus 17x plus 6 equals 0. Another kind of important thing here is this 3, the cube, I can't see it anymore because I just circled it, that means that we're going to get 3 answers. So that's very important. In fact, before I even start doing all the work, I want to jump down and just look at this x. If I jump down here and just set it equal to 0, that's one of my answers, x equals 0. Alright, let's go back now. Let's take a look at this. Multiply the 5 times the 6, and you get 30. What two numbers can you multiply to get 30 that are going to add up to -17? So be careful, because you got 3 and 10, you've got 5 and 6. This time, we're going to use 15 and 2. That does not add up to -17, but if I change both their signs, then it will. Write out your 4 terms. 5x squared minus 15x minus 2x plus 6. And it still equals 0, but now I ran out of room. Okay, GCF in the first group here is going to be a 5x, and I'm left with x minus 3. The GCF in the second group is going to be -2x minus 3. You can always distribute to check to make sure you're doing it correctly. So -2 times x is -2x, -2 times -3 is +6. Alright, write your first parenthesis is 5x minus 2, and the second parenthesis is x minus 3. Those both equal 0, so you're going to have to actually set them both equal to 0. This first one, 5x equals 2, I'm going to get x is equal to 2 over 5. My other answer is going to be x equals 3, and remember I said we need 3 answers. That third answer is x equals 0. Alright, thanks for sticking with me here, guys. Almost done. The last thing I want to say is sometimes it is not possible, it cannot be factored. If that's the case, we're just going to call it prime. Maybe you would have said not factorable in the past, but prime. What I want you to do now, go ahead and go to your computers, open up Buzz, and do the factoring check. You should find it, there should be a link to it in your agenda, but yes, this is for points. I know this was long. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me, and I will see you guys in class tomorrow.